Hey, this is Old Newbie from the Old Newbie VR show, and I'm responding to a post that I saw on Reddit from Johnny Boy 5001 asking about the YawVR and is it quote unquote ready? And so I started to write a whole book in response to that, and I figured, hey, you know what? I might as well just go ahead and post a video. It'll be quicker, and that way I can just say what I want to say without having to read through a whole block of text. So the TLDR of it is that the YawVR will work properly after a lot of configuring. Okay, the bottom line is it's not plug and play. So I myself, I have a YawVR. I purchased the YawVR about a month and a half ago. It came in, I've been using it, and I learned a lot trying to use this thing. So let me start off here with the hardware. So the first answer to your question is yes, it's ready. The hardware is ready. The hardware itself works great. It's sturdy, it's functional, and it's a quality product, especially after being of Kickstarter origins. So if you're not familiar, the YawVR started out as a Kickstarter project. I've been following it since its inception, from its early developmental stages all the way to its consumer release, and they've done a great job with it. They've iterated on it, and they finally got it to a consumer release version, and I think they worked out all the bugs, and the hardware itself works great. And just along those lines, the YawVR team itself is very great. They really responsive, and they're supportive of this product. You can tell that they back this thing 100%. As an example, I received just last week a free cooling fan for my rig, for my sim rig, my YawVR. And the fans are there to cool the motors after you've been using it for a long time. A lot of people were reporting that the motors were getting hot. So in response to the community's concerns, they developed a cooling kit with fans and sent it out for free to YawVR owners. So that's just an example of the support that the team is giving to their product. And just in the functionality of the YawVR, I mean, this thing, it does what it's supposed to do. It rolls, it pitches, it yaws, and vibrates, and it does a good job of reproducing those corresponding forces, when you're in VR. Now, that said, the software, that's a whole different story. But let me say this up front, the software issues are not solely a YawVR issue, but rather it's a SimVR, a sim rig community issue writ large. Now, I'm completely new to the sim rig community, and like you, I chose the YawVR as my sim rig of choice to get started. It seemed really simple. It was nice and small. It didn't seem as complicated as all the other ones, and it was obviously I'm a VR user, and so the YawVR seemed right up my alley as far as dipping my toe into having a sim rig. But since receiving the YawVR, it has been a very rough learning experience just trying to get this thing to work, and that's because of the software. So all I can tell you is be prepared for there to be not much community support, no help, or just one-on-one type of guides out there to get you functioning. Hopefully you're a type of person that likes to fiddle and likes to can get into configuration and do and kind of learn on your own, because I got to tell you, just from a brand new person, the support just isn't there. Because the community is small, I guess it's the bottom line that I found out myself. And it kind of makes sense. Not everybody has a sim rig in their house, so respectively, there's just not a lot of support for sim rigs, and that is reflected highly in the software support. And if you think about it, a lot of games out there don't have what they call telemetry, which is the data that a game puts out for a sim rig to respond to. The yaw, pitch, and the roll and the vibration, that actually has to be programmed into a game. And not a lot of games have that programmed in. And so in order to compensate for that, a lot of the people in the sim rig community try to develop their own software to like mimic that type of data input. So they call it joystick inputs, in which you'll probably find out. So the YawVR team actually puts out their own interface software, their own game interface software. And it's okay, it works, but there's not a lot of titles that are supported, just maybe a handful that support. And they say that they're working on it, and software obviously takes time to develop. But all I can tell you is, if you want more support for game titles and software and interface for this rig, be prepared to pay for additional software for from the greater community to have greater compatibility. And another thing that I found out is the software that is out there that gives you more compatibility, it's not official software. That software is indie developed. So for example, I dropped $50 for Sim Racing Studio, and Sim Racing Studio, it's probably one of the more widely known sim rig interface software, but it's not official. It's indie developed. And so they charge $50, and they have disclaimers that say, look, we're not official, we're not officially supported by any of these companies. It's just a community really supported software by a few individuals that decided to make this interface for software. And they just added support for the YawVR, so that's kind of good. So there's more titles, but you're gonna have to lay down a little extra money. And then on top of that, man, guides and support on how to get it working is just far and few between. I'm actually thinking of making a 101 myself. That's probably going to come later. But I mean, that just kind of gives you an indicator of the community that you're getting into. And I'm not even going to get into some of the other technical stuff that you need, because motion compensation is another thing. Because when you're in a sim rig and it's moving around, you need to be able to compensate to keep your head in. Like if you're doing a flight sim, you got to compensate for the sim rig moving around, so you're not moving around inside of VR. So a whole different thing. So I've even kind of gone on and on in this video more than I would with typing a response. So I don't want to create a very dim type of perspective, but am I completely discouraged? No. When it works, it works. Like, one of the first things I did was I set up the epic roller coasters. It's one of the more, one of the first things that I think a lot of people do when they get this rig. You get epic roller coasters, which is a roller coaster sim. They've got support inherently in the YawVR software for this, and it works great. You get the feeling. That was the one thing I let my family get into the rig and experience it, and it works really good. With the vibration and the rolling and the pitching as you go through the roller coaster tracks, it works really great, and they had a really good experience. Now, getting it set up and getting it going, that's a whole different thing. So all I have to say is be prepared to have to do a lot of research, to have to do a lot of configuring to get it to work. Okay, so I've droned on long enough. I just wanted to do a quick video, just kind of outlining some of the issues, and just kind of tempering your expectations for using the YawVR or any sim rig, I think this would apply to, is that the hardware is going to work great, but the software and the community support is going to be rough. If you're thinking that it's just going to be a type of plug and play, you stick it in and then suddenly it works, it doesn't. You're going to have to do a lot of fiddling, a lot of configuring to get it to work. But when you when you persevere and you get through it, it works great. So let me not make it too off-putting. It will work, but you got to be willing to put in the work and the research to get it to work. Okay, so let me go ahead and end it there. Hopefully that answers your question. Also, like, subscribe, watch some of my other videos, which I'll link up here to VR. I usually talk about VR from the business perspective, but you know, I think I'm going to start doing this a whole lot more often because I tend to be a very verbose. So I may just start answering questions when it regards to VR and different nature and things that have to do with VR. So thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and see ya in VR. And with that, let me play me out of here.